when asked this morning, who am I told my fellow partners in the group, I'm a dissatisfied optimist. Because I'm torn between not between two loves, but between two views. One is, we heard today all those nice possibilities of ICT and social networks and all those nice projects. I'm not going to talk about the projects because you have been doing it. But I'm also, I'm dissatisfied because looking as a citizen to 15 years of e-government, because in many countries we're in the business of e-government for the last 15 years, I think, well, I'm rather dissatisfied. And you? Are you satisfied? No. So we need a meeting like this, and maybe we should try to look why it is and why we can change. Because my optimistic view is we can change, but we should know how to do it. So I want to talk about three views. One is mind the gap. Second is new paradigm, and we need new rules of engagement. First of all, well, you can read it, I won't talk about all the points. If you look at all kinds of reports recently, you can find the reasons why it's not as good as we think the situation should be. The eGovernment report by the United Nations says, well, there is a gap between availability and use and satisfaction in e-government. When I'm talking about e-government, I'm talking also about e-participation, because I don't think we should talk about e-participation. We should rephrase this summit as collaborative governance summit. Maybe I could come back to that later. So there are also reports in the Netherlands which say, well, there is a discrepancy between what we have created, the institutions still in government nowadays. They don't match with the information systems which we have developed. Information is used by different organizations for different uses, and citizens don't know who is using their information. So a big issue about privacy. Dissatisfaction about e-participation. The Dutch National Ombudsman did recently a survey and found out that many people, they want to be engaged, and we heard that from all of you, but they are not satisfied about the way they are treated, and they want to be involved, they are involved, but they never get to know what is being done with their information, what they share. And some other reports, the Citizenlink project, which I was responsible for, did some surveys and found out the same problem. Lots of activities, but not satisfaction about the situation we have reached. So, do we have a problem? And I propose the answer, yes we do. Do you agree? Or am I too pessimistic? No. Okay. My idea would be that we need a new paradigm. We have been talking for the last 15 years in many countries, or 10 years, 15 years, about e-government as the major framework for public sector reform. But, well, it's characterized by the most important problem probably is that we treat the citizen as a customer. It's been said by my colleagues today before. Whereas we should look at the citizen not as a passive consumer, but should look at as an active participant. But how are we going to do that? We need a different view. We should look at quality and interaction, not about efficiency and cost. My statement is citizens don't want cheap government, because they want good government, and good government comes at a price. Now, also a major problem is that we're trying to put this idea of e-government, which is doing about, Jeremy started today about doing away with the silos, but government is about silos. So we can say, well, let's do away with the silos, but if we cannot operate it like that, it won't work. We don't like bureaucracy, but bureaucracy also has very good views. It's about predictability, it's about security. So we're trying to put a new paradigm, e-government, on an existing structure, and it doesn't work. So my idea is that e-government is already being very much focused on technology, is also becoming obsolete. We need another view. And that new view is we need collaborative governance, which is a mixture of public sector reform, as we know it, as we have been practicing it, and it is still being practiced, and civil society innovation, which we have, Valerie talked about this morning, all kinds of developments. There is also a discrepancy between the development phase in civil society and the way it is introduced and combined with government strategy. So what we need is new rules of engagement. A couple of years ago in the Netherlands we defined a eCitizen charter, which is similar to the charter as Chuck mentioned, to accommodate the transition from the paper government to the electronic technical government. And we think that, if you're interested, we can later talk about the idea of the charter and all the elements it contains. But we need, being in a new phase, going from e-government, electronic government, to collaborative governance, we need a new kind of set of rules, how we introduce all those new possibilities into the daily workings of government. So again, this should mix the elements of civil society developments with the elements of development in the government. Very important, we have a number of items: access, identity, transparency, privacy, empowerment. The words have been mentioned before. But each government organization is treating those elements in its own way. They're not working together very much. They're trying to serve the customer, their customer. For instance, the tax office thinks I'm their customer. When I'm living in one city, the city thinks I'm their inhabitant. But when I work in another city, or when my parents live in another city, or my children go to school in yet another city, I'm a customer of many government agencies and they should work together. So we should redesign the new procedures. Catherine had been talking about it. But then we should take into account all those nice views we have about openness and transparency. Empowerment, been said before, is a major object. One of the problems we encounter in the Netherlands, that the government agencies, they design new procedures, for instance, for people who are unemployed, but the websites they are created, people who are unemployed cannot use them. So if you don't empower people using them, especially unemployed people, your service won't be used. So when we have a new citizen vision, we also need new indicators, because when we check all those rankings by the UN or others, they're very much based on the electronic or the technical availability. For instance, the UN report says very nicely for the Netherlands, we are second to Korea in the world. But it also says that Kazakhstan is the third country in the world for e-participation. Well, must be true, because they say it, but what does it mean? Okay, let me summarize, because all those new views, if we want to have really a step forward, my proposal is we should not look at e-government, we should look at electronic government, we should look at collaborative governance, and how we're going to implement it. We could develop the idea of a citizen charter in a very concrete form, by, for instance, as it has been done in the Netherlands, by city councils adopting this charter as a charter of rights. It states rights of citizens. It also states obligations, responsibilities. So we should match and make clear for people who want to be involved in government, who want to be a part of government reform, make very easy for them to understand what are their rights and their responsibilities, because only then they're able to play their part. And at the same time, government should not try to own the platform, should be give opportunities for people to get involved. And only if people know exactly what their rights and duties are, they will be very effective in participation. So let city councils on the local level adopt this charter of rights. And I think the content of those rules of engagement, these might be a very important issue for our next discussions today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.